Okay, so we're gonna pull up our, so you want the note sheet right now. The little bracket sheet you probably don't need at this second. There's a warm-up question there. Another ACT practice problem. It's kind of a good place for us to do practice problems is in our warm-up there.
I know the bottom.
Yeah.
Is the vending machine in?
I don't think so. I think Mr. Bills is out and he's still fixing that.
Oh.
He needs to get back so he can start on the vending
I
machine.
can't get any drinks.
Nah.
I know.
Right.
Treats.
That's what's gonna be bad.
Stop. I'm going to blow your mind.
Okay.
Cheese is just a loaf of milk.
That makes me like, it gives me like the heebie-jeebies, like the milk is like pearl.
No.
Have you ever left milk sitting on the counter and then you go back and you like try to like
It's
move it?
cottage
It's just
cheese.
like, it's like a chunk, it literally is a loaf of milk. Oh, yeah. That's like cause my son Peyton drinks a ton of milk and he takes it to his room too, and I'll be like, are there milk cups in your room? And like, he'll be like, I'm not sure. I'm like, go look, cause that.
When I run to eat in my room, so it's like I always think it's just
Yeah.
the liquid.
We don't really bring food into like our bedrooms at all, but like,
I think so I can get away from my siblings.
but like, Peyton drinks like he has milk in his room. Obviously,
My
yeah.
siblings are someone's in hell.
I burned food in my bedroom just to do Walmart.
I think.
Well, you're built different.
Okay.
And also coding.
Okay. All right, guys. So it says George earned $39,000 last year working 8-hour days for 200 days. How many dollars did he earn for working a 40-hour work week? So this problem is a little bit of a mess. So we have to kind of try to figure this out.
I think we earned money.
Yeah, you probably want a calculator. If you figure it out and your answer's not up there, it probably means you did something wrong.
We earned money.
There might be an answer that makes the most, and I'm wondering if, like, part of it one makes the most sense, maybe, but.
Whoops. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm gonna take attendance quick. You guys are checking on that. But even if you just made a good guess and I ask you why you think it is what it is, so. All right. Did anyone figure out his hourly wage? Is that what you guys did? What'd you guys do? Or you figure out how much you made per day, or what did you do? There's a lot of different things. What? Okay, so you did 8 times 200. So you did figure out how many hours he worked, and then you figured out how much you get paid per hour, I think, right? I think that's what you did.
Then I times up by 40.
Okay. So she basically said, well, if 80-hour days for 200 days. Yeah.
That's how Asians work. That's a Chinese time there.
That'd be 1,600 hours, right? So she took that and she divided that into the 39,000 to figure out how much he got paid per hour. So, and there's a few other ways to go about this. That's why I was kind of trying to ask this what you guys did. So he gets like $24 an hour, 24. Then we take that and multiply that by 40 because they had a 40-hour work week. So that was 975. I don't really love the choices on this one because to me that's the only one that really made sense. So I would probably say the choices weren't great. What did you do? So you did. Oh yeah. So what you did actually. So Allie did this in one step here, but Ali did it in 2 steps. So he divided here and then divided there. So he kind of did it piece by piece, but he still ended up with the same pay per hour. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, kind of figuring that out. You could have figured out how much they made per day. I don't know. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to get there. But so what we're doing today is we're talking about that personal income tax. So when we talked about all the different things coming out of our paycheck, I feel like we just keep adding more and more things to take out of our paycheck. But this is real life. This happens. It's not, again, our paycheck doesn't show up and it's not this, I worked 8 hours and I get paid for 8 hours of work. You technically do, but they take so much out of it. So I want you guys to know where that money is going and kind of why it's there. So this is kind of talking about, like Clayton a minute ago said, why don't they just send us a bill at the end of the year for what we owe for our income tax? Part of the reason why they don't do that is because we're not great at saving. Like as people in general, I don't know that many people would admit it, money. So one of the things is the income tax, they pull it out to kind of help us to have it set aside and saved. And then at the end of the year, they kind of try to check and see how close we were to that estimate. So, and some of these terms, I just want to make sure I describe them correctly. So the personal income tax is basically the tax we pay to the government, but and they're gonna, that's when people talk about filing their taxes each year. That's kind of the check to make sure we're paying the right amount to the government. I'll talk about that. Good question.
Definitely giving me my money back.
But yeah, the IRS is the government agency that's in charge of Internal Revenue Service. IRS is the government agency that's in charge of figuring that out. So somebody has to double check. They click, turn off the ringer.
Oh. Sorry, I'm getting so many spam calls.
Well, that's why your ringer should be off.
This is the first time I've gotten this many spam calls.
Well, that happens. And one day I'll get like 10 and then I won't get any other day. So,
It's probably Versity again.
I want your blood.
I'm gonna do my blood.
No, you're not. When spam callers are involved, they go to these, that's where they go. We'll get your blood.
They're gonna get my blood.
We'll get your blood.
No, my surgery's not doing it.
So the IRS is the government department that collects our taxes. Now, all the way back to the times of the Bible and ancient times, they collected taxes. You hear stories about tax collectors long, long ago. So the IRS is not a new thing. This isn't just one, president that came in and wanted to take all our money. This has been going on for years. So there's been lots of issues.
President would not have.
Yeah.
No
All right.
respect.
Now, so talking about what Ari had asked about in terms of what does tax return mean, based off of basically when so school claims takes some of my taxes out of my paycheck each month. They're trying to make an estimate of what I'm going to owe the government. If they are over that estimate, then I get that money back. If I'm under, that's when you talk about people having to pay taxes. Now, how I can determine that, because one year when I first started working here, and so Mr. Donahue was already working here, I started working here, I didn't claim enough withholdings, or I claimed too many. I claimed too many withholdings, and I actually had to pay into my taxes because I wasn't having enough taken out of my check. I think I'm saying that the wrong way, but I wasn't having enough taken out of my check, so I had to pay in. So we adjusted our withholdings, and then I got more back when tax returns came. I wanted more back than I'd prefer to have to pay in, because then, March rolls around, or whenever I'm doing my taxes, and all of a sudden, yeah, I owe, you can owe quite a bit, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't have $1,500 to pay the government right now, or I don't want to have to pay the government $1,500. I'd rather the government take a little bit out at a time. So they're kind of helping me to keep that together. Right now, one of the things that they're doing, part of one of the tax breaks or tax things going on right now is to help people through like COVID, is people with kids are getting $500 payments. But what they're doing is they're actually giving us our tax credit now versus at the end of the year. So I'm actually taking that $500 that they're giving me and I'm putting it into a savings account so that if I have to pay into my taxes, I have that money sitting aside. So yeah, you have to kind of be smart about things and figure things out. I know I'm not great at saving. Like I'm not great at setting some money aside for my taxes. It's not something I'm excited to save for. So I prefer that I'd be over and then get money back from the, so when I say I get a big tax return, it's technically just my money coming back to me.
It's just the money.
So it's just, I mean, it's so weird how it all works out in that, like that you kind of just trust that everybody figured it out right. So that's, you know, you're doing your own taxes, you know, or you have someone that does your taxes, so it's kind of crazy with all that. So withholdings, this is the kind of a big thing, and right now in your life, withholdings are not a very big deal. However, as you start having a family, getting married, having kids, the withholdings matter because it's more people that are taking out of your paycheck. So like I'm supporting, you know, obviously Mr. Donahue has a job too, but we're supporting 2 kids together. We have a, you know, a household with 2 kids. So we changed our allowances when we had children because we had to pay more in to take care of our kids. So, because kids aren't cheap. I'm sure you've heard that from time to time.
That's why I've never had
All right.
kids. They're expensive.
So, the way, basically withholdings, the way we kind of think about that is typically, like if you are not married, you're single, you might just have a withholding of 0. So I'm going to write, you're single, no kids. If that's the case, then they're going to take, your company is going to take more money out of your check every month. They're going to put more into the savings account for your income taxes.
Oh, because you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, and you don't really necessarily need that money, but also I'll talk about it in a second. So, so more money would come out. I always feel like this is really counterintuitive. It's like opposite of what I think. But when you start adding a spouse or kids, for every person that you like count in your household, you probably want to have withholding for them. So someone with like 3 kids might have 5 allowances, 5 withholdings. So, and this is kind of up to you how many withholdings you take. Like again, as young people, you probably have 0. You're married with 3 kids. They're going to take less money out of your paycheck every month. So let me explain to you guys my scenario once you have that written down. So when I started here, I think I put my withholdings too high. Like I said like 4 or something. That was not high enough, so then when I went to go do my taxes at the end of the year, I had to pay into my taxes, which means I wasn't having enough taken out of my check each month. I was getting more each month for my paycheck to take home, but at the end of the year, it was like the government's like, oh, you owe us $700. I didn't really want to have to pay $700 to the government at that point. I mean, I did, but I would prefer that they would have taken out more money as I went along and then kind of like force me to save, and then when taxes come out in spring and I can get a refund, it's kind of a nice little bonus. Like typically we usually spend our tax bonus on or our refund on maybe helping with our a summer trip or something because we're off in summer. But So the idea is that trying to figure out this number is sometimes tough and sometimes it's hard to know what's best for you guys. Now, right now, you guys would all probably be zero withholdings. And when you guys get a job and you're filling out forms, probably the lady in the, or the gentleman in the office will say, just put a zero down. They'll probably tell you that because you're young and you don't have any kids. So take out as much as possible, and then you probably get a refund then if you're claiming taxes. But your parents might also be claiming you on their taxes, so you might not be able to do that. So, but this is as you guys move forward. So this is kind of confusing, but on your homework, they're always going to tell you how many withholdings there are. So that's kind of the easier part of this. All right, so the first of the methods we're going to talk about is called the wage bracket method. So if you guys look, the wage bracket method is this first page, like front and back. So it says on the top, really big, wage bracket method. Those of you guys online, this is like a document I have in there. Again, this is not something you like memorize this for tomorrow. No, like this doesn't need to be memorized. This is something that, like I said, I don't know that I've seen this before, or if I have, it wasn't anything that I really cared all that much about just because it wasn't something I used very often, but it helps you to figure out how much would be taken out. So, and there's different categories. There's single, so that'd be you guys, so in the beginning you are married. There's a married section, and those are both weekly. And then if you flip your page, there's single monthly and then married monthly. It's how you get paid. So right now, we're going to look at this first page, front, side, and back. So the wage bracket method is one way to calculate our personal income tax. I would call this the easier of the two ways. It's kind of a flat amount they just take out. I don't know, to be honest, I don't know how a business decides which one to use. So I would assume that most of them use the, I don't know. So I'm not sure how they decide. I don't know if it's per state or per types of company, but we'll show both of them today so you guys can see them. All right, so this first one says Rachel's single and she claims 2 withholdings. So, and it doesn't say that you have to do this in this way. So if she's single and she has 2 withholdings, that doesn't mean she necessarily has 2 kids. Maybe it's just like her situation in life. Maybe she has a side job. Maybe she gets paid on the side by someone. You know, like it just kind of depends on her situation. Use the wage bracket method to find out her withholding tax if her weekly gross earnings are $358. So grab this sheet, grab the front side here. She gets paid weekly, so we're on the front side. She's single, so we're in the top of the chart here. And then she's got 2 withholdings. So on the top column up there, there goes like 0 through 10. 2 is her withholdings. And you're gonna go down this side and find out where 358 is. So if you look, it's actually kind of nice. It's the top row. So it goes 350 to 360. And then you look at the 2 withholdings, and that box tells this company how much to take out. It's $16. Do you guys see that? So you're kind of just going across this table. So $16, that's what's going to come out of our paycheck each month, or each week, sorry. So that money gets set aside, basically gets paid into the government, and then the government tells you at the end of the year, that was enough, or that was too much, or you still owe us. And if you underpay on taxes, they can actually give you a tax penalty, so that's not a good thing. So you don't want to go too low, because they want their money throughout the year. They don't just want it at the one time in the year. So, all right. Is that okay? So that one wasn't so bad. Bob has monthly earnings of $2,700. So monthly, we need to flip to the back side of this page. And again, you'll use this for your homework tonight, so that's why I'm going to show you guys how to use it. So monthly earnings is on like page 2, so like the back side of the front page here. He's married and claims 4 withholdings. find his withholding tax using the wage bracket. So again, it's telling us to use this wage bracket method. That's this first type. He's married. He has 4 withholdings, and he earns $2,700. So take a minute to see if you guys can find what his taxes should be. Give you guys a minute, don't yell it out quite yet. So see if you guys can find it on here. So married, 4 withholdings, makes $2,700 a month. How much should this business be taking out of his pay? You guys find it? So you're going on this, you're on the bottom of the second page here. You're going over to the 4, but then we have to go down to 2,700. It's almost at the bottom of this table. And this is only a section of the table. Like obviously people get paid different amounts of money. They just kind of showed us a little piece here. We're like the third from the bottom. So what is it? 64. So $64 would be withheld, this month from his paycheck. That's what they would set aside there. Okay. So this is one of the 2 methods, and again, I mean, and maybe Ms. Miller has some insight on this too, but I don't know if it depends on the state, or we can always Google this too as well, but this is one of the 2 types here, the way they decide how much to take out of our check. All right, the next one I'm going to warn you guys is much tougher. So this one requires more steps. I don't know if it's more accurate that it requires so many more steps. I feel like maybe it should be then, because this one has 4 steps to it. So I'll write down our steps here. And this one's going to go, this is a percentage method. This is going to be basically page 3 on our little packet here. All right, and I have to use my little cheat sheet here. So step 1 is we're going to use this top little chart here. This says percentage method for one holding allowance on the top up here. So this little part, we're going to basically say how many allowances we have, and we're going to multiply it by that number. So we're going to multiply the withholdings so like your number of withholdings, so like I said, I typically be like a 4, and you guys would probably be a 0. Multiply the withholdings by the number on the top of that chart. So the withholding allowance chart. So on this chart, why don't you guys, next to it, why don't you write step 1? Right next to this little chart here. I don't know if I have this chart up. I don't think I do. So I would write step 1 next to it. Let me pull it up. See if I can find it. Tax charts. So next to this little percentage method, write step 1. So this is step 1. So if you're weekly, I would take 4 times 77. If I'm monthly, I'd do 4 times the 337. So this is step 1 of this. And like I said, this one's a lot tougher. But the good news is they give us step-by-step instructions here. So we have step 1. Once I do that, I'm going to take that number and subtract it from my gross pay, like my gross income. So subtract this number from the gross pay. So I'm going to do gross pay minus step 1. Should we do this step by step? Do you think maybe let's do that? Let's start working on this one. All right, so say he's married and claims 3 withholding allowances. Use the percentage method to find her tax withholdings in a week when she has earnings of 263. All right, so step 1. You multiply the withholdings, so 3, by the number in the chart that corresponds to hers. Which number in the chart corresponds on this one? Guys, look at this, please. So we're multiplying the 3 by what number in our chart up here? Guys, you gotta be looking at this. By the what one? The 77. She gets paid weekly. So step 1 here, and again, this isn't just something you guys can like kind of come back and look at later. This is something I had to practice last night as well. So I'm doing 3 times the 77.90. So that's step 1. We're up here. Yeah, just like this. So weekly. Oh, because she has 3 withholdings. So this is 233.7. That's just step 1. So that just determines it's based off of her weekly and that she has 3 withholdings. Step 2 is take her pay and subtract that number. So now I'm going to take her pay, which is like that 1,200 number, and I'm going to subtract this 233 number. And we'll keep writing the steps here in a second. So I'm subtracting those 2. You'll have to do this for your homework tonight, so I want to make sure you guys practice it. And we have steps like this to help you here. Okay. So far all we've used is the top table. Now we're going to look at this big mess of a table down here. So she's married, and she's weekly. So married and weekly is like this one over here. Married and weekly. If the number of wages after subtracting the withholding allowance, so this number, if step 2 is like in that range, they're gonna tell you like all this information. This is kind of crazy. So we're gonna look at this and we'll figure out the appropriate row. So use the next chart to figure out the appropriate row for her. Let me see. So if I'm looking at this, she's got 10, 29, 30. So we're going to be on the second row. So she's over 521, but less than 1,613. Do you guys see that? Okay. The amount of income tax to withhold. So this gets really dicey here. They're going to tell us what to do here. So again, I just want to make sure you guys see what we're talking about. Let me go back to this. So we're using that 1,000 number. We're on this row here. Sorry, I don't know how to highlight that. Let me highlight it. Oh, that was good.
Perfect.
Yeah, obvious. So we're on the one right next to the little circle there. So it's just crazy that all this goes into our taxes, and then comes out at the end of the year and they're like, you're right or you're wrong, or I mean, it's just so crazy how many many little pieces are to this. And I'm gonna tell you guys, what I'm gonna ask you guys on a test is not gonna be this complicated, just so you know, like this chart is crazy. But I want you guys to see this, to know that it's not just like the government being like, give me all your money. I mean, there's obviously reasons why all these are here, so we're just trying to figure it out. And again, I've never done this in my whole life, is actually figured this out. So I've gotten through my life without doing this, but I think it's good for us to know. So follow the directions on the table to find the tax withheld. So they gave us specific directions. And I'll show you guys. So follow directions on the table. So we're looking at that second row, and it says to withhold $35.70 plus 15% of anything over $521. So step 4 is it's $35.70 plus 15% over anything over $521. So I'm going to kind of go back a step here. And we'll take a little break after this. I know you guys are. I'm going to take this number and I'm going to subtract 521. Because that's the amount that's over 521. So this is 517.30. This is the part that we're going to do 15% tax on. So this part is going to be taxed. In addition to that $35.70. So plus our 15% of this, 0.15 of 517.30. So I found out this was like $77.60. And I'm adding that to $35.70. She has a total of $113.30 taken out. All right, we're gonna take a break. I need to upload this part of the video because I've been having the issues with the uploads.